Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So last class কি করছো মনে আছে? আছেনে মনত লাষ্ট ক্লাছ কি কৰিছিলো? Okay. Anyway, শুনি আছা ন? Hello?
শুনি আছো।
Okay. So we discussed about servlet. Okay. In our last class we discussed about servlet. Okay. Just I have given you a overview on servlet. So here with this diagram we will discuss in brief what is actually the servlet is. Okay. So as we discussed about, there are different types of web pages, right? Static, dynamic and active. There are different types of web pages. So for this dynamic web pages, actually what is dynamic web page? এইটো জানা চাগে? So আকৌ repeat নকৰো dynamic web page কি হয়? So here we will discuss about the servlet. Actually, what is servlet? Servlet is a server side program. Okay. Servlet to ki hai is a server side program hai which is written in Java. Okay. And means what? The servlet, we need to code the servlet in Java programming language. Means the programmer need to code the servlet in Java. Okay. Means what? Whenever, means what? Suppose there is a sender and there is a receiver. Okay. Suppose we want to send data from sender to the receiver. From source to destination we send data. So whenever the server receive an HTTP request, okay, whenever the server received an HTTP request for the execution of this servlet, so then what the server does? The server means what? As you know, the servlet is an programming language, server side programming language which is written in Java. So if it is written in Java, then the extension of that programming language will be .java. Since it is a Java programming language, so what is the extension of that language is .java. Okay. And program after compiling that program, it is converted into class file. Okay. So whenever a web server received a request for the execution of the Java program, for the execution of the servlet, it কি করে, then that class file is executed. Okay. Class file to execute করে দিয়ে, and the result is given to the browser. So that is what it is described here in this figure. This is servlet compilation process, means how a servlet is compiled. Okay. Servlet, here it is written that servlet it is written in Java language, and so the extension of the program is .java. And after we compile that program, it is converted into class file. Okay. Then whenever an HTTP request arrive for processing the servlet, the dot class file যোনটো হয়, that file is executed, and when that file executed, the output will be HTML. Now how the output will be HTML? You all know that browser only understand the HTML. Okay, browser sent the request for the HTML pages. So কি হয়, the output of this dot class file is the HTML page, and again this HTML is sent to the browser through the HTTP response, and here the server get the HTML pages. Clear? বুজি পাইছানে? ইয়াৰ পিছত আমি যাম what is servlet and how the servlet is run. That's a different thing, but actually what is servlet and how the servlet is compiled, it is just described here. It is clear or not? বুজি পাইছানে? Hello? Okay. Yes. Let's do it. Okay. Now we will come to the servlet processing. Just wait. Now this is a servlet processing concept. The earlier one is the servlet compilation process. Okay, so to just Salu, that one is the servlet compilation process, and this one is servlet processing concept. How a servlet is processed means what? কি হয়? Servlet is run under run inside a servlet container. This is known as servlet container. Okay, under this container or inside this container, the servlet run. Okay, this container is responsible for hosting and giving the environment for execution of the Java servlet. Means what? Under this container, there's actually we can say that inside this not only under, inside this container, the servlet execute or the servlet run. Okay, means what? Suppose this is a web browser. Okay, suppose this is a web browser, and if the browser sent an HTTP request to the web server, okay, browser sent an HTTP request to the web server for the execution of servlet. তেতিয়া কি কৰে, the web server, when the web server notice that it is we are asked to execute the servlet. Okay, servlet to কি হয় এইটো already কৈছো, servlet to হয় এটা server side program which is written in Java. Okay, or you can say that servlet is an API, or this way you can say. But servlet is servlet means what? When the servers are asked to give the dynamic web pages. Okay, so then that dynamic web pages are not there in the server. Okay, only static web pages are there in the server. So when the browser asks for the static web page, the server directly provide the browser the static web pages. But when the server are asked to give the dynamic web pages, then that dynamic web pages are not there in the server, so he has to make the web pages. Okay, the banabala ibo web pages too. So what he does, he give the control to the servlet container inside which the servlet execute or in the servlet run. Okay, so what happened when the browser sent an http request to the web server for the execution of a servlet, then the servlet hands his control to the servlet container. Means server gives the control to the servlet container. Okay, the, then the servlet container processes the request and make his processes the query and make the result and provide the result to the server, and after that the server send the result to the web browser, and the result is an html output. Okay, don't forget the result of the servlet is an means the execution of the servlet is an html output. Okay, so this is the servlet processing concept, how a servlet is processed. Clear? কিবা doubt আছে? If you have any doubt, then you can ask.
No, yeah.
Okay. Then we will go for this, right? Then we will go for JSP. JSP means Java Server Pages. Okay, the difference between the servlet and the Java we will discuss it later on. Okay, first we will see what is JSP. Okay, JSP, as you know, the JSP means it is a Java server page. Okay, so basically what is JSP? It is used means JSP is used to develop web pages. Okay, the JSP is used to develop web pages by inserting means what, by inserting Java code into the HTML pages. Means inside, for any web pages we need HTML, we have to write in HTML, right? So in JSP, inside that HTML pages, inside that HTML code, we write Java code. Means HTML tags are also there. Okay, but Java code we write into the HTML pages with some special JSP tag. Okay, like in HTML we have HTML tags. Okay, so in Java also we have JSP tags. Okay, so JSP means it can consist of either HTML or XML. Okay, means it how can I say? Mm, okay, the difference we will discuss in later on. First, first you just understand like that. that JSP it is used for develop web pages, and it is used by inserting Java code into the HTML pages. Okay, so in this diagram we can see that what write the JSP. Since it is a Java code, okay, so the extension of the file will be a .java extension. Okay, then whenever an HTTP request arrive for processing the JSP of the container, for processing the container translate the JSP into a temporary Java servlet. Means what? Suppose there is a browser and there is a server. Okay, a browser send request to the server. Okay, so when the server get a request for the execution for the processing of the JSP, what it does, the container means what? Servlet container. Just now we discussed about the container, servlet container. So what is the servlet container? Inside the servlet container, the servlet is executed, right? So when the server get the request for processing the JSP, means Java server pages, the container translate the JSP, okay, translate that page into a temporary Java servlet. Okay, clear? Temporary Java servlet means what? The server are asked for processing the JSP, means Java server pages. Okay, when the server requests the processing for JSP, then কি 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 করে, the server gives the control to the servlet container, right? So container এ কি করে, the container translate that JSP into a temporary servletলৈকে translate করে, and if it is a servlet যদি হয়, then it is a Java programming language. So the extension of that file will be also .java extension. Clear? So after that the container compiles, তারে পিছতহে compile করে that temporary Java servlet file into class file, into .class file. Okay, and that .class file is executed, and after that the .file is executed, and the output of that file is HTML, and that output is sent back to the browser via HTTP response. Clear? Clear হৈছে নে?
Yes, ma'am.
মানে কি কয়, JSP offer a layer of abstraction on top of servlet. মানে কি, যেতিয়া servlet executionৰ কাৰণে request আহে, then কি হয়, servlet to কি হয়, এটা Java language হয়, so the extension of that file is .java. So যেতিয়া servlet executioner request ahe, then that .java extension is when that file is compiled, that file is converted into .class file. Java যদি পঢ়িছা তো গম পাবা, Java program যদি আছিলে, then when that file is executed, it is converted into .class file, and .class file is execute. Okay, so যেতিয়া ব্ৰাউজাৰৰ পৰা এটা ৰিকুৱেষ্ট আহিব চাৰ্ভাৰক for the execution of that servlet, then that .class file is executed. Okay, and the result is sent back to the browser. সেইটো হ'ল তোমাৰ servlet. And what is JSP? JSP কি হয়? It is a Java server pages. Okay, সেইটো already কৈছো Java server page হয়. Java server page কি হয়? It is used to develop web pages. কেনেকে? By inserting Java code into the HTML pages. Okay, so কি হয়? Whenever a request has come for the execution of JSP is nothing but you can say Java. So the extension of that file is .java. So কি হব? Then the server give the control to the servlet container. Okay, মই তোমাক আগৰ edit দেখাই আছো ৰবা. One second. See this diagram. When the server get a request for the execution of the JSP, okay, the server passes the control to the servlet container. Okay, clear? So JSP is what in it is a Java file. So that's why the extension is in .java extension. Okay, যেতিয়া এটা request পাব server তেতিয়া কি কৰে then this servlet container translate that JSP into temporary servlet. Okay, temporary servlet লৈকে convert কৰিব, and since it is a servlet, the extension of that file is also .java. Okay, তেতিয়া কি কৰিব? তেতিয়া that compile কৰিব .java file to. Okay, and when that file is compiled, it is converted into class file. Okay, and that actually hey class file to hey execute koribo. Okay, so after that the class file is executed. Jetia class file execute koribo, then the output is will be the HTML. Okay, and after that যেটা HTML output to পাবো, that HTML output is sent back to the browser via HTTP response. Clear হল নে?
Yes, ma'am.
Just now মই কৈ আছো Java compilation and execution process. এইটো যোনটো this one is servlet compilation concept. Okay, now if you are asked what are the advantages of Java, then we've done this way. This way. So what are the advantages of Java servlet? Advantage of servlet. Okay, first we will discuss the advantage of servlet. So first advantage is servlet are multi-threaded. Okay, means what? Zetia when the servlet container receive a request for the execution of servlet, then the container load the servlet in the memory. Okay, and কি কৰে তাৰ পিছত and assigned means and create some thread from the servlet for processing the client request. Thread means to গম পাইছা কি হয়? Instances, create some thread, like how can I explain? Suppose মোৰ 10খন হাত আছে I am the single person and I have having 10 hands. Means what? I can do lot of work at a particular time, at one time. গম পাইছানে? Means what? If more clients send requests for the same servlet, কি কৰে then the servlet container does not create new instances. Means বাৰে বাৰে servlet create কৰি নাথাকে. Means that's what doesn't create new instances. Means or process. This one you can just see here. This is the process or the instance we can also say. Does not create new processes. Instead, it create new thread for the same servlet process. Okay, and serve the different client like this way. So there are 4 clients. They are asking for the response of the servlet. So here 4 process will not create, because if 4 process will create at the same time, then it will load on the server also. Instead, it creates some thread. Okay, and this way it uh, just responds to the browser or the client. And this makes the processing faster. Okay, and also reducing the memory demand on the servlet container. Because if suppose there are 4 clients, if 4 processes are created, then what? The memory, more memory will be required. Okay, so here only a single memory is required, because only one process is executing here. Okay, so that's why first advantage is servlet are multi-threaded. Okay, means what? Several clients can send requests to the same servlet concurrently, means at the same time. Clear? And second advantage is that since servlet execute inside a means container, so it is quite stable and it is very simple to deploy, and it is very secure also. Secure means what? Since it is a Java program, you know that Java program are very secure, so it is very secure. So till now, if you have any confusion regarding servlet, আছে নে কিবা confusion? Hello?
No, ma'am.
No confusion? So your servlet, then servlet advantages, I think it is completed. So in next class we will discuss the servlet life cycle. Okay.